Record button. All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our webinar series. Today we're going to be looking at creating digital portfolios, and our presenter is going to be Rebecca Gibney, one of our curriculum and online learning specialists. We are excited that everyone could be here. Just a few things before we get started. This webinar is going to be recorded, so people can watch it later. If you want to leave your camera on for that, that's great, because we like to foster collaboration and community, but feel free to turn it off if you don't feel comfortable with that. Everybody is muted, and we'll unmute you at the end to ask questions, but you can also use the chat box throughout the webinar to also ask questions. We'll have a presentation, then a time of question and answers. And with that in mind, I'm going to turn it over to Becky Gibney.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. And also, Erin's going to jump on today, too, to talk from the elementary perspective as well. So we also have Erin Hamilton. And so today we're going to focus on creating digital portfolios. It's going along with our theme that we started yesterday of project-based learning. So if you missed that series or that session, we also have that recorded on our online learning hub. So for our intentions today, we are looking at what are the elements of an e-portfolio and how can you familiarize yourself. Well, we're looking to familiarize you with a couple of variety of platforms that we know in our region are popular. So Google, Seesaw, Microsoft, and also ClassDojo. And so how you can use already the platforms you are using with your students and turn them into portfolios. So when we look at how, like, what elements are needed in an e-portfolio, obviously digital, you want it to be digital. I think that this, a couple years ago, the paper portfolio was so important. I remember going to, teacher interviews and you carry this huge binder. And nowadays it's different. The digital portfolio allows students and you to get your footprint out to a wider audience, sharing things on social media, making things like we talked about yesterday in the project-based learning, making it a public product. By doing it digital, you're already making it public. So it makes it a little bit more authentic for the students. You want to have some learning evidence in there. So when you tie it back into your I can statements, they can be documenting their experience and their evidence. Structured content, again, it could be formal and informal. So when you have your checkpoints, they could be uploading things from their checkpoints. Authorship, now this I had to look in a little bit deeper what exactly that meant. So yes, the students are creating the material, but also they have a say and a voice in what is posted and published and what is not. There are reflections on learning. So there could be a little tab there that has how they're reflecting on what is being learned, what they thought went successful, what they would do differently, and then providing that opportunity to showcase their work, whether that be right now in our setting, like a virtual showcase where you share it with your local community, or if you're back in school, the showcase could be parent-teacher conferences or student-led conferences. So the first platform we're going to go into here is Google Classroom. And there's a number of ways that teachers that are using Google Classroom can do e-portfolios, keeping all of those elements in mind. Students could be using Google Docs, and you could do the table of contents and bookmark. So you could do a table of contents and you have evidence of learning, authentic artifacts, and so forth. And then you could bookmark it. So when someone clicks on the link, it goes directly to that section. You could also do it in Google Slides. In the classroom, when I was in the classroom teaching, I had my students make a Google ebook. And so all I did was use Google Slides, and then they would go different places and then put their evidence. They change the settings, and then you can actually export the Google Slides and make it an ebook. There's a lot of resources out there as well on how to do that. And finally, a little bit more advanced is that you could be using Google Sites and making an actual website of the experiences. Google Sites I use often with right now for like Home and College for their student teachers. And also, I'm thinking like if you have internship opportunities, Google Sites would be a great way, especially with your seniors and some capstone experiences, where they could be sharing that publicly with the Canadian world around them. Erin?
All right, next up is Seesaw. The platform for Seesaw is a way for students to be able to do exactly what Rebecca just said. It gives them all of those opportunities. It is targeted, I think, toward a younger audience. It can be used K to 12. However, I've had success with it in a 4th and 5th grade classroom. And also people in my building at the time were using it very successfully in 1st grade classroom. But it's a way to, Seesaw advertises a lot with their learning loop between teachers, students, and families. And really, I think the big, powerful part of Seesaw is being able to create that digital portfolio as a young learner and understand the value of that and see the successes that come with that to be able to continue to add to it as you go on and continue your education through middle and high school level. It is a great way to communicate with students' families as well. They're able to post their learning through their portfolio and then share that with teachers and families and their peers. And I found a lot of value in that when our audience became larger than just one. For example, if they were doing an assignment and turning it into me, oftentimes it was viewed by myself, feedback was given, and then our learning continued. Where a platform like Seesaw allows the students to have that authorship, like Becky was talking about, where they're publishing their work, putting it out on a platform that's saving it to their own personal portfolio, but allowing others to comment and give feedback on it. Now the audience grew significantly with their peers and their families, and it was a great way to get feedback back and forth. If you want to go to the next one, Becky.
Yeah.
This is right from the Seesaw website. It does say the 3 main things that Seesaw is looking at right now, and there is a link there to the Quick Start Guide, but it's a way for students to show their learning, teachers to gain insights, and families to connect. And again, with the portfolio end of it, they have that built-in portfolio. Now, Seesaw does offer 2 platforms. One is free and one is a paid subscription. And one of the largest components of the paid subscription part is the fact that that portfolio continues to follow them through their education. So if you're just using the free Seesaw, I do think there's a lot of great components of the free Seesaw. However, if you're working to create that portfolio that you want to travel with them from grade to grade, that is one of the significant differences between the paid and the free subscription. Like I said, there is a, oh, go ahead.
Erin, also with Seesaw, they can embed that in their Google Classroom too, correct?
Correct. And that's paid, the paid or free version. So the free version also gives you a way to go ahead and embed that into your Google Classroom to set up kind of like a dual portfolio. Now you have it saved in 2 different places. Correct. The Quick Start Guide link there is something you can explore on your own. It came right from the Seesaw website that allows you to have literally a step-by-step guide with screenshots. It's very user-friendly and goes through how to get your class set up and a class code and email and all of those things. So it's very user-friendly and step-by-step there for you.
And also, I'm glad that you have this linked in here because it shows you how they're using Google Slides as an ebook. So this can also export that as an ebook, and that's what I was mentioning earlier.
Perfect.
Great. And we'll have Scott will link this this presentation on our online learning hub, so you can then have this presentation as well. Awesome. So the next up is, oops, sorry, Erin.
That's okay. That's just the last Seesaw one. That's another link that goes to their Seesaw website, which is an active way for you to engage with it. So you just saw the step-by-step guide, but this one has videos embedded throughout that really hold your hand and walks you through setting it up, why we should set it up, and how to use it and different benefits. So maybe things that you didn't even think about while you were exploring. So this link just kind of digs a little bit deeper and talks about the remote learning for Seesaw. But this is something that I would encourage you to use in a brick and mortar setting as well.
Wonderful, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Our next one, again, for Microsoft schools is Microsoft OneNote, and how if you are using, like I said, Microsoft, for the student portfolio aspect, you could use the OneNote sharing and everything for putting together a student portfolio. So you can see an example here. Now this is just an example of a portfolio, how you would set it up, but you would have different folders that would go with different, either different subjects, different years, It could go with different, if you're doing a project-based learning, the different steps that you would follow in the process. And then each tab would be have evidence of learning. And you can share that then with whoever's collaborating on the project together. Something with the portfolios, you know, when we talk about project-based learning and capstone experiences and whatnot, you're building a community of learners. So that collaboration piece is huge. I always told my students in high school, especially, that your portfolios are a way that you can use, things that you can use when you're applying for jobs. Say you're going to the job field, the workforce right after college or high school, sorry. Or if you're applying for colleges, you could use it for your interview and things like that, just to showcase what you've learned throughout your high school experience. So one note, this is how you would set that up, and how you would then make subfolders out of your folders. ClassDojo?
All right, ClassDojo is another platform that you can use, very similar to Seesaw in a way. Also has a free and a paid version. It does allow communication between students and teachers and families, provides that collaboration like Becky was just saying. The one thing about ClassDojo, I've noticed a lot of districts using it as a platform to communicate back and forth with families. It is a really great way to get notifications. For example, the other day I was at Lowe's and I was giving the lady at the paint counter my phone to look at color of a picture of a paint can, and she said, "Oh, you just got a ClassDojo message," because it came up on my phone. It does come up constantly. ClassDojo allows a platform that parents have one way of looking at it, students have a completely different way of looking at it. The part of the portfolio that we're focusing on today, it's really awesome to see the way that teachers can collaborate together when thinking of like an intermediate student that would have multiple teachers that they're touching. They can all collaborate to one portfolio. So for example, my daughter is a 6th grade student. Her district is using ClassDojo right now. She has assignments coming in from choir. She has assignments coming in from the phys ed teacher. She has assignments coming in from her math teacher, and they're all collaborating her work into one portfolio. So it's a great way for her to be able to showcase all of her work in one place. There are some things that I found that are a little bit of a roadblock. For example, posting videos or sometimes even pictures are only allowed in certain places. And so that's kind of a thing to work around. I think the next slide, Becky, will share that a little bit more. This, you can play it if you want to, but this is a very quick video, less than 5 minutes, that is done by a teacher that walks you through how to create the ClassDojo portfolios for your students. I think if you're considering this, it was something definitely I would consider investing a few minutes in. She does a great job walking you through step by step, and it gives you that, face-to-face, one step at a time portfolio walkthrough. So similar to Seesaw in a way that students can post their work. One thing I did notice about ClassDojo, however, is in a student's portfolio, it is their view only. So for example, if the choir teacher assigns them something to upload a video of them singing a song, it will only go to their portfolio. It's not shared with the other students in the classroom or in the group. It is a private portfolio for just the student to share. Whereas Seesaw that we talked about earlier was more of a community, kind of like a Facebook for students that are younger. This is an example. It's not, it's an example of my daughter in 6th grade. She was sitting on the porch swing updating her ELA teacher of a book that she was reading this week and what the chapter was about. And I find, as I think her teacher, also I'll speak for her, finds it more exciting when she can see their faces that she misses terribly right now, explaining and giving their feedback on a book versus just typing up a summary. And I know that my 6th grader finds it more engaging to be able to video herself, like to send to her teacher.
Wonderful. So to wrap this all up, we're talking about, project-based learning, and today creating digital portfolios, and then tomorrow moving to a capstone experience. It's all about shifting that assessment mindset. So it's no longer, it's really hard to do the integrity, with giving an assessment like a test. But if we start to shift our mindset on what is assessment, that's what we're really getting at this week. And so we're starting to turn from deficits through this process to now what are our students' strengths? How can we showcase that? From completion to now collaboration. How can, maybe you want to collaborate with this project-based learning and portfolios with partnering in our community, especially virtually. You can do that right now virtually. And then we're also moving from one outcome to there's many possibilities. It's not, yes, this. It's what possibilities are opening because we're having experiences. So for today's, we just wanted to showcase a couple of different ways that we know people, different platforms that they are using, and how you could then turn those platforms into different portfolios and showcasing work and use that for the assessment method for however your district is moving. So at
The other
this
thing
time,
I'm sorry, Becky, the other thing I was going to mention is with any of the platforms we were talking about today, it's a great way to showcase the growth of students over time. Even if it's for a 1-year snapshot, being able to, even with the recordings like I shared with Class Dojo, having that in August or September when they begin, and then being able to compare that, understanding that growth of the student and their understanding till, May or even midpoint in January. It's a really great way to have that student growth reported over time.
Yeah, and I also will recommend too, as you start looking with your districts on what platform to use. Erin and I were talking earlier today, actually, about the importance for keeping it consistent among your teachers. It can be hard, especially now for parents, if one kid's using Dojo and another kid's using Seesaw and then another kid's using Google, trying to keep it consistent. So for all students, teachers, and parents and community members, I think is easier to navigate. So it's just really finding that product and platform that works best for you and your students. So we'll open it up. I think Scott can release his powers. And if you have any questions or comments that you might have.
Yep, you can unmute yourself at this point.
And perhaps we can stop recording and then